Hello, welcome back to Stand By for Adventure. This is John. Today we're going to cover something I hope very quickly because I only have about 5 things to talk about, and that is free, cool, and/or one-page role-playing games that are available out there. These are games that I want to cover because they are really interesting, but they are also excellent first games for a GM, for new role players, to introduce people to role playing. Really, it's just they're great, and I've played not all of them, but I have either played, read, or watched them all be played, and they're fun. They're all fun. I recommend them all. It just kind of depends on if they're the sort of thing you feel like playing. And I also want to point out that this is just 5 that I picked that I was familiar with because I could talk about them with some amount of intelligence. There are many, many, many one-pagers, free role-playing games. There's Eclipse Phase that you can pick up, which they actually sort of, not even sort of, they absolutely kind of encourage people to download/pirate, although they allow it, their PDFs because they believe that it's basically just another form of marketing. So you can go get an entire role-playing game with multiple huge thick books for absolutely for free. It's called Eclipse Phase. Check it out. I recommend you buy products from them since they are actually producing this stuff and making it available free for pirates just because they don't want to get into fights with pirates. But if you pick up something you like it, then maybe pick up something down the road or repurchase that book if you didn't purchase initially. Anyway, that's Eclipse Phase. So check that out. It's a sort of a post-modern, post-singularity sort of setting where you can move your consciousness from one body to another, kind of an altered carbon sort of thing, but taking it even further, that you could like download your body into a weird octopus cyborg thing that can travel through space, all sorts of crazy stuff, but very, very cool. So let's get going here. The first few, I tried to go in order of the ones that I either like or are super popular, because I can talk about them a little bit more. First one is Lady Blackbird. This is just an absolutely standout, free, not one page, but for each player it ends up being about one page because each player gets a different character with different abilities. All the rules are contained on that one sheet of paper for that player. I think the GM also has maybe more than one page, but it's basically an entire campaign that you can play off of these, I don't know, half dozen to a dozen pieces of paper that, or on a PDF, whatever, that you can play sort of a Star Wars mashed up with steampunk, mashed up with the brown coats, blah blah, Firefly, right? Yes, which is why this art looks quite a bit like Firefly, and you have characters that have certain traits, and as you play through the game, you can expand on those traits, earn experience to buy more traits, or to sort of finesse and improve the traits that you already have. It is a very, very cool game, and you will absolutely feel like you are rebels in a Star Wars-like setting trying to escape from Imperial issue. It's just so much fun, and I highly recommend downloading it. This is by John Harper, a guy actually who lives just here in the Seattle area. I used to game with weekly. I don't remember why that stopped happening, but love his design work. I love his graphic design itself. His game design is fantastic. He's a really excellent GM and has just a fantastic sense of how to put stuff together to make it both interesting, intriguing, and compelling. So definitely check it out. He also did Blades in the Dark, which is a huge game He did Aegon. He has all sorts of great stuff. So if you're looking for probably what I would consider the highest quality of these games, this is the one. It's really fantastic. Just search for. There is a singer who goes by Lady Blackbird, but search for Lady Blackbird and Harper or 1-7 Design, and you will find this. And I'll include links down in the description as well. So, but I absolutely recommend checking this out, especially if you're new to role playing. It uses, I think, only D6s. I haven't played it in years. Only D6s. Super fun. In a Wicked Age is another game that I've played. This is, I think, not free, but it is not very expensive. And I have a bunch of notes on this that I want to read through to give you a good description because it is not quite as simple as the other. Games of In a Wicked Age are divided into chapters. At the beginning of a chapter, 4 entries are chosen randomly from one of the 4 oracles, which are included in the book. It's not like an actual oracle or something. The oracles are Blood and Sex, God Kings of War, The Unquiet Past, and A Nest of Vipers. The players and GM write down all the characters that are stated or implied in the 4 entries that are chosen, and then once this list is complete, each player chooses a character from the list to play. Characters can be combined if desired to tie the various entries together. For example, in the above list, in the above list, the trainer of apes and father of a child could be the same character, if the group agreed on it. Once player characters are chosen, they are given forms and a particular strength, so you define the character that you've created. The forms are covertly, directly, for myself, for others, with love, and with violence. So you can see not normal stats, like not strength, dexterity, constitution, nothing like that. These are very, very different. But the system still works just the same because you can use the stats that they list here, such as particular strength or, covertly, directly. So if you're sneaky, you would do something covertly. If you are very aggressive, you might do something directly or with violence. So pretty neat the way they sort of define things. Each one is assigned a die size from a D4 to a D12, so D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. And they are the primary traits through which you will resolve conflicts. Particular strengths are skills, powers, or objects that give the character an advantage in a certain situation, and they provide bonus dice in the conflicts in which they are applicable. All characters on the list that are not chosen by the players, as well as any other characters who turn up through play, are controlled by the game master. Non-player characters have only 3 forms. They have action, maneuvering, and self-protection. They may have particular strengths as well, much like the characters, but not necessarily. And yeah, and there's a little bit more to it, but it is so much fun because you end up playing in these sort of created off-the-cuff settings with these characters that you would never really come up with on your own. I remember I played, this has got to be more than a decade ago. I played a character who I think I called something like Weeping Jenny or something like that, and she was, I don't think Jenny was the right name, but she was like the witch who lived at an oasis in the middle of a desert that all the other characters were traveling through. And it was just a fascinating game, like so very, very cool and interesting, and went in places that none of the players or the GMs expected. And this quickly went from a one-shot to all of us going, we got to play this some more. And I would still, to this day, more than 10 years later, would love to go back and play this game for any amount of time. So if you're looking for something pretty cool and unique and different, absolutely recommend In a Wicked Age. It is so, so cool. Honey Heist. This is the next one. This is the one that most people who are familiar with things like Critical Role any of the campaigns of Critical Role should have probably heard of Honey Heist, because, as you can see from this image right here, they did a couple of Honey Heist episodes, one-shots, that sort of thing. And Honey Heist is just it's goofy, silly fun that's just fun. I mean, that's all there is to it. You play, it's quote-unquote the real world. Not quite. But you play a bear, and bears, they basically look human, so when they get dressed up in clothing, they are able to go and sneak into places that humans are, and in this case, your bears are working together to sneak into HoneyCon in order to steal honey. And you get to roll to figure out what sort of outfit your bear is wearing, what sort of role your bear plays. Is he the driver? Is he the muscle? Is he the sneak thief? It's ridiculous, and it should be approached as such, and it's fun. It's a very, very good time, and you can also check this out on the Critical Role YouTube channel. You can see when they play these games and see how it's done and what they get up to. And you could play it very serious, and you could, of course, play it super light and funny. The game systems, for most of these, the game systems are pretty simple. It's either roll some d6s and roll under a number, or roll some d6s and roll over a number, and that determines whether you succeed or fail. Very, very good time. So much fun. And yeah, because this game in particular is free, there's no reason not to try it, unless just the idea of it you find so ridiculous that you couldn't stomach it. But that kind of makes it fun on its own. Always Never Now is from a designer who's been around for a long time, Will Hindmarch. I used to work with Will at Green Ronin Publishing when he was there for a while. And Will is a super creative guy, excellent writer. And Always Never Now, he released back, I think I just saw in 2013, so it's almost 10 years old. But this is sort of, if you would take Lady Blackbird and the way that system works in defining characters, which gives you certain traits, and then you can purchase new traits as you sort of gain experience. But Always Never Now is a more cyberpunky, kind of near future setting where characters are kind of running in the shadows, much like in Shadowrun or in Cyberpunk and that sort of thing. Very, very cool little game. As I said, it has a lot in common with Lady Blackbird, so if you try that game and you like it, or you like Cyberpunk as opposed to Star Wars, give this one a shot. I do not think you will be disappointed. And finally, I think this is finally, yes, finally, we have Old School Hack. This was, this Lady Blackbird, yeah, this and Lady Blackbird were probably two of the early kind of multiple page, super simple, you could play a whole campaign out of a dozen pieces of paper. And as you can tell, just absolutely cute, adorable artwork here. I love it. It's so fun. And then it is what they refer to it as is a hack of of the old box sets of D&D from the early mid 80s. And it works. It's a really fantastic little game. You can play a D&D campaign, or effectively a fantasy campaign using Old School Hack, and it won't have all of the fiddly bits that modern D&D has, but you will be able to play pretty much just as an interesting, involved campaign as if you were using D&D or any game system that's fully fleshed out with hundreds of pages of rules, except in this case, it's only a few pages of rules, which in and of itself is a huge strength, right? Very, very cool. I highly recommend it. There are people have done hacks of Old School Hack. My buddy Jason Michael actually did one called Old School Hats, which was a Western version of Old School Hack. So if you like Westerns, you can find that. And there are others that are out there as well. I just happen to know of that one off the top of my head. So There you go. That's it for today. I just wanted to get a little bit of these games in front of people so that if you are, again, if you are intimidated by being a first-time role player or a first-time GM, DM, moderator, check these games out. Or if you are looking to introduce kids to role-playing games, probably Lady Blackbird, Old School Hack, Honey Heist. Those three I would recommend more than Always Never Now, which kind of has a more adult feel to it, as does In a Wicked Age. But Old School Hack, Honey Heist, and Lady Blackbird could all easily be run for kids. The math is very, very simple. I shouldn't say simple. It's easy for almost anyone to do. And it wouldn't take more than a few minutes to get people up to speed on any of these systems anyway, because they don't concentrate on the numbers, they concentrate on telling a good story and then using the dice to just determine success or failure, and then you have to deal with whatever that outcome is. The one thing I will caution you about is that because these games are very much concentrated on the system of the game, they don't really get into the setting all that much. So you will have to create what the world is like, or you will have to imply a lot of what the world is like so that the players can then infer even more than that. So they'll be building the setting in their head. And then when you introduce elements, obviously that'll adapt. So if in D&D settings, you don't normally run into 75-foot tall mushrooms. But in Old School Hack, you could just describe the forest they're in as huge mushroom trees that grow for a season, and then whatever, they let off glowing spores that then fly up. And you can do that in a D&D game or something like that too, but in Old School Hack, it's all just set dressing. You don't need to have rules for it necessarily, and if you do, they're going to be really simple rules. So all of these games allow you to be much more freeform, but that can also be kind of daunting to people. But give it a shot. Give any of these a shot. I highly recommend them. If you're looking to try something out, these are absolutely fantastic options to start with if you don't want to spend $20 on a D&D box set, or whatever, $20 or $30 on a Pathfinder box set, or whatever else is out there. I highly recommend all of these. So to run through them again, there's Old School Hack. So good. And again, I'm going to put these down in links to them down in the description. Always Never Now, Honey Heist, In a Wicked Age, and Lady Blackbird. So there you go. That is today's Standby for Adventure, and believe me, with these particular games in particular, you will be having a really good time on your adventure. So let me know if you have other recommendations for games. Like I said, these are ones that I have some experience with and can speak about intelligently, but there are so many more out there, and I absolutely recommend, if you're looking for something, take a look around. Just search for free indie. That's another name that they often go by. Free or indie role-playing games, and you will get probably pages and pages of recommendations or articles, much like this would be an article if I'd written it out, on websites that will recommend all sorts of games. There's things like Risis and PDQ. There's tons of games out there that are very easy to play with without a big investment up front, and I want to encourage people to do that. So if you're interested in any games and you don't have money for something big, expensive, go for one of these. You will get an entire campaign out of something like Lady Blackbird, and it will be fantastic. That's it for now. Stand by for adventure. Come back on Thursday, where we will do Thaco Thursday, as we do every week now, and which is when I talk about some old rules from early editions of D&D and things that aren't true anymore, or things that have been changed and adapted over time and taken new form. Have a good day. Stand by for adventure.